Hola, familia, and welcome to episode 10 of Fire and Butterflies, where vulnerability meets authenticity, where courage meets love, and where fire meets butterflies. And I am your host, Comadre Cristal, and I am so glad, so blessed, so honored to be here with all of you amazing listeners out there. And I say that because we made it. We made it. We've made it to today. Um, if you are listening to this as the episodes are aired, uh, today is May 2nd, and the oh, April was an intense month for a lot of people. For myself, it was a very intense month. So if you felt a lot of those shifts of energies that were happening in April, we've we're in May now. It's okay. Like we can release. um but yeah, and today's episode is actually kind of like I want to reflect on what happened to me in April, and I want to reflect on the lessons I learned, especially because I know someone needs to hear this. I don't know who it is, but it's for you. If if any of this, if especially if you struggled in April, this message is for you. And if you didn't struggle and you did, like, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I'm a little envious, not gonna lie, but I'm very happy. For the rest of my familia, comadres, compadres, and comextres, you struggled. I here. I have your medicine, and I hope that it sticks for you. So I want to kind of go back a little bit before April. I actually want to start off with March because something happened in March, and a lot of you, especially my loyal listeners, have been part of the podcast from episode 1 will know this. So, episode 2, okay, Spirit, I declare that I am open for a relationship. I did a reading, I did a channeled messages. I showed all of you kind of like what it is that I do in a Comadreando coaching session. Kind of similar. It's very different when I was just by myself. However, that's what I want to talk about because what came up on that episode. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back and watch it and listen. It was actually really nice and good because this is going to kind of be a follow up along with the reflections of what happened. So in that episode, I had declared and I had been I declared that I'm open for a relationship. Funny thing is that sense of that higher power has a sense of humor. My power has a sense of humor. My higher power likes to play around. And that's at least that's how I always take it as. When I said I was open for a relationship, I I was thinking a romantic relationship. I was thinking, okay, I guess I'm open for a romantic relationship. Um, Turns out that it was not a romantic relationship that I was open to. What spirit had in mind was I was open to relationships in general, like relationships with other people, collaborations, networking, and it came. So, and what happened with that was that's what April happened. Like a lot of reflections started happening in April for me. For a lot of you who kind of follow the energies, and for those of you who don't, like I'll kind of explain. But April was an intense month because we had a solar eclipse. Mercury was in retrograde. I do believe there was a couple other planets that were also shifting, and the nodes were moving. Like there was a lot. I'm not an astrologer and I don't pretend to be an astrologer. I do follow a couple astrologers that are freaking amazing. And so I hear it what they're saying. Um I actually have a friend also who does readings and uses your birth chart kind of to help guide you, and he also kind of gave me like this is what you should be prepared for, and this is how you should hold your ground based on your placements of your houses and your your birth chart and all that jazz. So I won't go into too much into that because funny thing is I invited my friend to be on the podcast with me because I was like, people need to know more about this because again, the more you know, the better you do. Knowledge is power. So, anyways, that's not the point. The point is the relationships. And when I had said that I was open for a relationship, I started seeing relationships coming into fruition. Like I genuinely started seeing people come into my life. People that I never expected to come into my life just popped into my life. And some of you already have met and seen these people in my life because I interviewed them on my podcast. So that same day that I had made that recording, episode 2, that same day I had gone to a networking event for the Holistic Chamber in here in my hometown. And that's when I connected with the international life coach, Tisha Marie Kane, which was interviewed, and her podcast episode was amazing. And so connected with her. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Again, not thinking about relationships. A week after that episode 2 had aired, or no, not even a week, yeah, a week after the episode had aired, I also got connected with Megan Lambert, who is a transformational mindset coach, who also got interviewed. And as you saw her episode on Gene Keys and human designs. And Megan and I have just like literally become like really good friends. Like we text all the time and we talk to each other and it's been a beautiful relationship. That came up into my life in March. And and the whole time it's so funny because w- it- when when we get tunnel vision, we always like start thinking like, but where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Well, again, we're not seeing like the everything around us. We're not seeing the blessings around us. Um and I started having relationships with these amazing women, and I started having relationship with other people, and it was just so beautiful and magical. So then April comes, and I started, that was in April was when Megan, actually both Megan and Tisha's podcast episodes aired in April. And so that was really just a really nice aspect of seeing that. The thing is that what came up for me, especially because with all of the shifts that were happening, I had a lot of uh, reflection that I had to do and sit with in April that I didn't know I needed to do, but it just organically happened. Because another thing that happened in April, and again, another relationship that came back into my life was a friend that I hadn't connected with in a couple years. Uh, we reconnected, and I caught up with her, and she caught up with me, and we just kind of shared like our changes, like because I had known her for a few years in the field because we both worked in the domestic violence field, and but we went our separate ways. And when I caught up with her and I shared with her, like, yeah, like this is everything that's happened in the last few years of my life that we haven't connected. And when her response was like, wow, like, Cristal, that's a lot of changes. And I'm like, wow, you're right. That is a lot of changes. And so I started to, like, I had it, like, that moment, I realized I need to pause and reflect and process everything that's happening because there were a lot of changes, and I never sat down to really process and really grieve those changes. Because here's the thing, what change is change. Good change, bad change, it doesn't matter. Change is change. And we have to grieve through that change. We have to feel those feelings that come up. It's so funny because one of the changes that I did recently because I once I had that realization and I went into my feelings and processed everything that I had to process, one of the changes I decided I needed to make for myself was I wanted to change my bedroom up. I wanted to reshift, move the energies in that room because it hadn't the energies had been stagnant um, since the divorce. And I was like, I'm gonna change up my room. And this is why change like you grieving the change is very important because one thing that I saw and I immediately noticed were my cats did not like the change. It was a good change, but they didn't like it. And so it took my cats a couple days to get used to the room. Actually, it's still taking me a little bit to get used to the room, but it's a good change. But what I have noticed and what I want to really emphasize is when you have change, be sure to process that. Be sure to sit with that and really acknowledge it, embody it, and if it was a change that you didn't want, it's okay to cry it out. If a relationship ended, it's okay to let that relationship end and cry and be in those feelings because that's what happened in April for me was I realized I need to process all of these feelings and all of these emotions and all of these changes. I need to sit and process all of it and I did. And and the beauty of what happened after that was once I released and like actually like processed, new things started coming in. More relationships started coming in. Um, for again, my loyal listeners, I don't know for a lot of people who are okay for my loyal listeners, if you are subscribed to my email listserv, then you are aware. And for those of you who are not, go sign up because that's going to be the best way to get up to date information on Love Your Naco Madre. Because I was reached out to a couple. Actually, in April, in the beginning of April, the Transformation Network or Transformation Talk Radio reached out to me, and I was like, first, I don't know who you are. Like, I thought it was. Like, I honestly thought the email was a scam because I was like, what? But no, it was legit. They were reaching out to me because my podcast had come across their desk and they loved what I did, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Talk about relationships. And I connected with a few of the talk radio hosts that the Talk Radio has. And I was interviewed on one of the podcasts yesterday, May 1st, with Dr. T. Her podcast name is Creating Connections with Dr. T. Amazing woman. I absolutely adore her, and she was so great. It was such a fun episode. So be sure to go watch it. I'll be sure to put it I'll be sure to put the link in the description. Um, but that happened, and this coming week, I have another interview with another host, and I have people like I already have people like scheduled that I'm going to interview. Like it's just these relationships are coming, and I was not. They were not the relationships I had expected, and that's another part of like when you put expectations they're gonna lead to disappointment. And so I that was another part of my reflection last month of like, I just gotta surrender and trust the process and trust that it's gonna happen the way it needs to happen. And it was just so magical. And so one of the things that really came up again in regards to relationships and regards to letting go and processing was also acknowledging the hurt because I think for me personally, I struggle in admitting that I'm hurt. Um, Perfect example I could use because those of you who know me know that this is how I am. I will refuse to take medicine, medication, like not refuse. Like I don't want to say I refuse taking medication, but if I have a headache, perfect example. If I have a headache, um, migraines, especially because I used to suffer from migraines. I don't anymore. Thank you, spirit. Um, but when I used to suffer from migraines, I I would not take the medication that the doctors had prescribed right away. Like I would just like I would endure it. I would like I could push through this. The migraine will go away on its own and I don't need to take medicine. And the migraine just would get worse and worse until finally I'm like, "Oh my god, let me just take this medication." And then my migraine would go away. But that's the kind of person I am. Like I will endure for as long as I can before I cave in and do this. It's a coping skill I learned as a young child. It's it's not healthy, so please, for those of you, please do not do that. Like, listen to your body, and if your body needs something, it's okay to take that. Now, wherever you stand with medication or a holistic approach, whatever, like, this is your journey, not everyone else's. So do what's right for you. And I yeah, I realized that that's what I had also been doing with my feelings of the changes that had happened in my life. I was just enduring. I wasn't processing, I wasn't feeling. And I had that moment last month where multiple moments where I just had to sit and feel and sit and cry and sit and curse and sit and laugh and like any feeling that would come up, just really embody those feelings in that moment. And then magical things started happening after I would. And so it was a reminder to me of why it is important to feel your feelings, why it is important to reflect, and why it is important to process and release and allow the new to come in after, especially after you release, because in order, and I always say this to everyone, in order for your manifestations, in order for your goals, in order for your dreams, and in order for anything that you want to bring into your life, you got to let go of what you're holding on to that's now allowing those things to come into your life. And that's what I really did last month, and the relationships came. Those relationships that I had declared that I was open to came into my life. Those collaborations came into my life. Opportunities came into my life. Um, and it's been magical and it's been beautiful. And I'm like, wow, what a beautiful blessing. And so that is what I really want all of you to take with from this episode today. Just whatever you want to put out to the universe, be open to receive what higher power is going to say is best for you. Again, I thought I was saying I was open for a romantic relationship, and clearly that's not what the universe agreed with. Like, the universe was like, no, you're going to be open with relationships that are going to help build you as a person and as an individual, as a professional, even relationships as a mom, because I actually connected with Megan. She's also a parent, and I mean, we talk about our kids, we process, we help each other out, and it's just so beautiful. Um, and then here's the part that is it's hurtful, and this is the part where I want you to give yourself grace, and I want you to give yourself permission to feel, and that's when you have to those relationships that you thought you needed have to end, because that also happened to me. There was relationships that I thought I that were gonna be there, and they didn't, and they ended, and it hurt. Um, and also kind of like the acceptance that the relationship I wanted wasn't gonna happen, if that makes sense. So, yeah, just give yourself the feelings. Everyone comes into your life for a reason and for a season. Believe that. If a relationship ends, especially a relationship that you didn't want to end, it had to. I know it doesn't make sense in that moment when you're hurting. I know it doesn't make sense in that moment when you're in your feelings, and that's okay. It doesn't have to make sense right there and then. But believe and trust that as you go on with your day and as you go on with your weeks, as you go on with your months, it's going to start making sense of why it had to end. And I really had to sit with that last month because it was the first time in 2 years that I actually sat down and grieved the loss of my marriage. I know, 2 years. I've been divorced now for a year, and yet I haven't even grieved that. Like, I just, because and that's the thing, like, I also wanna remind you and give yourself grace with if you don't do that right away, it's okay because life doesn't allow us to, and this is why it's so important to be intentional and be mindful of it because that was my problem. Life wasn't allowing me to sit down and grieve because, like, I have shit to do. I gotta be a mom. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Like, it was like, do move, 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 move. And so it's okay if there's a relationship or a situation or something that has ended in your life and you are not allowed, like, you're not grieving because you're telling yourself, "Oh, I'll do that later," or I'm okay, I'll be fine. Like, that's okay. Just know it's not going to be the attitude forever, and you got to be prepared for when everything else comes up and you're like, "Oh, now I got to sit down and grieve," because best believe the universe will always make sure you end up processing it one way or another. Always happens. It just because that's how life is. So be sure to give yourself grace and be sure to be gentle with yourself and know that the lesson that this person, this thing, the situation brought to you was the lesson that you needed. And and I came out with that after last month's reflections that I've really sat down with. Um And then so I did. I grieved the loss of my marriage. I grieved the loss of friends. I grieved the loss of mentors. I've grieved the loss of family. I grieved because I had to, like, in order, because if I didn't grieve, I would not have been able to open up the space to welcome all of these other amazing people that came into my life. Um so be sure to do that. If you, I promise you, if you want something new in your life, if you want a new chapter, if you want something to start, you have to grieve the loss of whatever happened that you want the newness from it. I laugh because it's like I really like it. All of this is making sense in my head, and I declare that's gonna make sense for you because you needed to hear this. And so it's been an amazing journey so far. It's been filled with laughter. It's been filled with joy. It's been filled with fear. It's been filled with tears, and it's been filled with anger. I mean, like, anger is definitely an emotion that I've had to process as well, because again, as a child, I was I was not allowed to be angry, and I was not allowed to be sad. Those were my 2 feelings that I could not tap into. And so now as an adult, I'm giving myself permission to be angry and be sad, and not feel bad about it. So so yes, I just wanted to do this to just share a little follow-up on that episode because yeah. So also another thing, be careful with the things you say if you're not ready. Thankfully, spirit, and that's a reminder, especially as me being a spiritual life coach, for my clients that come to me, my comadres, compadres, and comextres, like, that's what I always tell them, like, you it's when you're ready. Like, clearly, if you're coming to me, it's because your spirit team is, like, knowing that you're ready and this is an opportunity. It's our ego that gets caught up in, "No, we're not ready. This is hurtful. This is not what I want." And but it's like you have to go through that resistance in order to get to the other side. Because the grass is greener on the other side. It's just going to be a lot to get to the other side. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Because trust me, last month I did not think I was going to make it to this side of where I'm at today. And it's not like anything devastating happened. I think again, our feelings, we get caught up in our feelings. We get caught up in our head. We get caught up in the worries, the stress, the nerve. Like it's that's all part of being human. The problem is like we get stuck there, or we truly start to believe we'll never get out of it. That's not true. We do get out of it. We just have to process and grieve that, because if we don't, then that's why we feel stuck. Um, and it was, yeah. And so yes, last month it was just so beautiful to be able to experience that. And I say that now, standing on this side, I don't I would have never said it was beautiful and on that side. Um, so yes, be open. When you are ready for whatever it is that you are declaring that you want, be ready and be open to the shifts that are going to happen once you say it out loud. Because shifts are going to happen, and they're not going to, and for many of you, it's not going to be the shift you want. Trust me, it's going to be the shift that you need. Um, and so yeah, I'd learned that last month the hard way. So if I can provide any guidance or any clarity for all of you, just breathe, keep moving through it. This too shall pass. I know. I used to hate when people used to tell me that. This too shall pass. I'd be like, well, can it pass now? No, it's gonna pass when it needs to pass. And it's gonna pass when you allow yourself to feel, and you allow yourself to process, and you allow yourself to rest. So those are your secrets, everyone. Be sure to process, be sure to feel, and be sure to rest. Um, and be sure to drink water. I I think that's another like tip that I always kept getting, like drink your water. And it's like, yes, drink your water. We are we are made up of majority of water. Like everyone's different. It's between 40 to 70% of water. So yes, drink water. Be sure to replenish your water, because that's how we keep moving. That's how the energy flows. And water's a beautiful conduit for that. So be sure to drink water as you're going through all of these stages of your life. So yeah, I'm excited. May is going to be an exciting month for Love Your Now Comadre. May is also going to be an exciting month for me personally. The kids are getting out of school, and I it's going to be summer in a couple months. Well, in a month, the end of May. Summer vacation, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I'm excited to see where the universe takes me, and where, yeah, just excited to see what happens. So, yes, all of you, be sure to just come along with me on this joyride. Doesn't always feel like a joyride, but it is. It really is. And so, yeah, that was it. I wanted to keep this episode short and sweet, because April did not feel short and sweet, but I want to keep this lighthearted. So, with all of that, I am sending you all so much fire and butterflies. And as always, don't forget, love your now. Bye.